"May I have your leftovers, sir?" The moment those words left her trembling lips, the bustling restaurant seemed to fall silent. Everyone turned their heads toward the frail woman standing there, her clothes torn, her hands clutching a worn scarf, her eyes hollow yet filled with a quiet dignity. The man she had spoken to, seated at a lavish table with silver cutlery and half-finished plates of expensive food, was none other than Richard Sterling, a self-made millionaire known for his sharp business instincts and cold heart. At first, he looked at her with irritation. But then, he made the mistake of looking into her eyes. And what he saw changed everything. Richard had built his empire from the ground up. He prided himself on discipline, hard work, and never letting emotions cloud his judgment. To him, charity was weakness, and poverty was a result of laziness. But when this woman's soft, pleading voice echoed in his ears, something stirred inside him, something he thought had died long ago. He didn't just see a beggar. He saw pain, hunger, and a story untold. He saw eyes that carried the same kind of sorrow his late mother once carried, back when he himself was a poor child scraping meals from church donations. "Take the plate," Richard finally said, surprising even himself. The woman's hand shook as she reached forward, whispering a thank you so fragile it barely carried across the table. Instead of rushing away, she sat quietly at a corner, eating slowly, carefully, as though each bite was a treasure. Richard found himself unable to look away. After finishing, she stood again. "I didn't mean to disturb you, sir. I haven't eaten in 2 days. My daughter is waiting for me outside. She's sick, and all I wanted was something to bring her." The mention of her daughter struck Richard's heart like lightning. Without thinking, he rose from his seat and followed her outside. And there she was, a little girl, maybe 7, curled up under a thin blanket on the cold pavement, her cheeks pale, her lips cracked from dehydration. Richard froze. Memories of his own childhood, his mother working endless shifts just to feed him, came flooding back. "Where is your husband?" he asked gently. The woman lowered her eyes. "He passed away last year. Since then, it's just been me, trying to survive for her. I clean houses when I can, but it's never enough. Tonight, I just couldn't bear to let her go hungry again." Something in Richard broke wide open. This wasn't just another sob story, this was life, raw and unfiltered, staring him in the face. Without hesitation, he asked them both to come with him. The woman resisted at first, ashamed and uncertain, but Richard's insistence carried warmth, not pity. That night, instead of retreating to his penthouse, Richard personally drove them to a hospital, covering all the expenses for the little girl's treatment. As he waited in the hallway, he realized how strange it felt, sitting there, not for business deals or investments, but for a child's recovery. He hadn't done something like this in decades. He remembered his mother's words, "Money will fill your pockets, son. But kindness will fill your soul." Over the following weeks, Richard didn't just pay for their food and shelter. He offered the woman a job at one of his companies, starting small but with dignity, not charity. She proved hardworking, dedicated, and loyal. Slowly, she rebuilt her life and her daughter blossomed with health and laughter again. The press eventually caught wind of the story. They painted Richard as a changed man, but to him, it wasn't about reputation. It was about redemption. For years he had lived with the belief that wealth was everything, yet in one fleeting moment, a starving woman asking for leftovers had reminded him of his humanity. Months later, Richard stood at a company gathering, the woman and her daughter sitting proudly in the front row. He paused mid-speech, his voice heavy with emotion. "You know," he said, "a stranger once asked me for my leftovers. But what she gave me was far greater, she gave me back my heart." The audience erupted in applause, many moved to tears. But the truest miracle wasn't in Richard's wealth or fame, it was in the bond formed that night, when compassion triumphed over indifference. And so, this story leaves you with a question. In your own life, when someone asks for just your leftovers, your time, your attention, your kindness, will you turn away, or will you look into their eyes and see the miracle waiting to happen?